Here's a raw and unfiltered truth. People rarely think about the weight of their actions until the consequences come back to collect. It's a funny little irony, isn't it? They throw stones, spit venom, and laugh as they dance away, never pausing to consider the monster they're creating or the scars they're leaving. But life has a peculiar way of keeping score. Every word spoken, every deed done, it all leaves a mark. And oh, how those marks will claw their way back into the minds of those who left them, haunting them in ways they can't even begin to fathom. You see, there's something beautifully twisted about the human psyche. People act as though they're untouchable, like the things they do and the pain they cause won't leave a trace. They think they can run from their actions, bury them, or forget them. But the truth is, no one escapes their own conscience, not really. It's always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when it does, it's not with a roar, but with a whisper of quiet, insidious voice that reminds them of every sin, every betrayal, and every cruelty. It doesn't happen all at once. No, that would be too easy. The haunting begins subtly, like a faint chill in the air or a flicker of doubt in the back of their mind. At first, they might brush it off, convince themselves it's nothing. But over time, it grows louder, stronger, more relentless. Every action they've taken, every lie they've told, every wound they've inflicted, it all comes rushing back like a storm they thought they'd outrun. And there's no hiding from it. No amount of distractions, noise, or bravado can drown out the echoes of their own guilt. The beauty of it all lies in the inevitability. Actions have consequences, not because of some divine retribution or cosmic justice, but because of the very nature of being human. We carry our choices with us, whether we like it or not. The things we do to others don't just disappear into the void, they linger, carving invisible scars on our soul. And while some may be adept at pretending they're unaffected, those scars will always find a way to make themselves known. Maybe it's a sleepless night, a gnawing sense of unease, or a sudden pang of regret that cuts deeper than they expected. Whatever form it takes, the reckoning always comes. The ones who harm others often believe themselves to be untouchable, as though their actions exist in a vacuum. They delude themselves into thinking that they're immune to consequence, that the pain they cause is somehow separate from their own existence. But the truth is, the pain they inflict on others is a poison they themselves consume. It seeps into their veins, their thoughts, their dreams. It becomes a part of them, a weight they carry, even if they refuse to acknowledge it. And here's the kicker: the more they run, the stronger it becomes. The more they try to bury their guilt, the deeper it festers. You can't outrun your own mind, no matter how fast you think you are. It's always there, waiting for the quiet moments, the cracks in the facade, the moments when the distractions fade and they're left alone with their thoughts. That's when the ghosts come out to play. That's when the haunting begins in earnest. Some will try to drown it out with noise, fame, power, indulgence, whatever they can find to keep themselves from hearing the whispers. But those are just temporary escapes, fleeting illusions that only delay the inevitable. Because the haunting isn't external. It's not something that comes from the outside. It's internal, a reflection of who they are and what they've done. And you can't silence the parts of yourself that demand to be heard. It's poetic in a way. The people who think they're above consequence, the ones who believe they can tear others down without ever facing the fallout, are often the ones most tormented by their own actions. They may never admit it, of course. Their pride won't let them. But deep down, they know. They feel it in the quiet moments, in the stillness when there's nothing left to distract them. It's a quiet, unrelenting reminder that their actions have shaped not just the world around them, but their very soul. And the best part? It doesn't require anyone else to lift a finger. Karma, fate, justice, those are all abstract concepts. The real punishment, the real reckoning comes from within. It's self-inflicted, born from the very nature of being human. Because no matter how much they might try to deny it, everyone has a conscience. Everyone has that little voice that refuses to be silenced. And when they've done enough damage, when they've caused enough pain, that voice becomes deafening. So let them laugh, let them sneer, let them revel in their cruelty and arrogance. Because every action they take, every word they speak, every choice they make, it's all building towards their own reckoning. The haunting is inevitable, and it's coming for them in ways they can't escape. It doesn't matter how strong they think they are, how invincible they believe themselves to be. The ghosts of their actions are patient, and they never forget. There's a strange comfort in knowing that, isn't there? That no matter how much harm someone causes, no matter how much chaos they unleash, they can't escape themselves. Their actions become their prison, their guilt their warden. And while they might put on a show of confidence, of indifference, the truth will always be there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for its moment. And when that moment comes, it will be beautiful in its inevitability, a reminder that actions have consequences and that no one, no matter how powerful or untouchable they think they are, is immune to the weight of their own choices. Accountability is a concept people often associate with laws, societal rules, or the justice system, a set of external forces that ensure actions meet appropriate consequences. But the most profound and relentless form of accountability doesn't come from the outside. It arises from within, rooted in the intricate and often misunderstood nature of the human conscience. People may outrun the law, manipulate systems, and deceive others, but no one can truly escape the reckoning that takes place in the quiet recesses of their own mind. It is here, in this deeply personal and inescapable space, that the weight of their actions begins to press down with an unyielding force. Conscience is a peculiar and underestimated force. It doesn't roar or demand attention in the way external punishments might. It whispers, lurks, and waits. It's an insidious voice that grows louder over time, thriving in the silence when distractions fade. People who harm others often believe themselves immune to consequence. They walk away from the wreckage they've caused, convinced that their cunning, power, or indifference has insulated them from fallout. But what they fail to recognize is that the human mind is not built to simply discard its own wrongdoings. Every cruel word spoken, every betrayal enacted, and every act of harm inflicted becomes a part of them. It embeds itself in their psyche, weaving into the very fabric of who they are. At first, this internal reckoning might be subtle, almost imperceptible. A fleeting thought here, a pang of regret there. It's easy to dismiss these early signs, to brush them off as inconsequential. But the mind has a way of holding on to things, especially the things it wishes to forget. The guilt begins to fester like a wound left untreated. It might not be visible to the outside world, hidden beneath a facade of confidence or apathy, but it's there, growing stronger with every passing day. And unlike external judgments, which can be negotiated, escaped, or delayed, the judgment of one's conscience is inescapable. It is constant, unrelenting, and deeply personal. People often try to drown out this inner voice with distractions. They chase power, wealth, or indulgence, believing that these external validations will silence their guilt. But such pursuits are fleeting, temporary reprieves at best. No amount of noise can drown out the whispers of conscience when the distractions fade. In the quiet moments alone at night, staring at the ceiling, or in the split-second pause between thoughts, the truth always resurfaces. It's a relentless force, not bound by time or circumstance. And it doesn't simply remind them of what they've done, it forces them to confront who they've become as a result. This confrontation is one of the most difficult challenges a person can face because it requires acknowledging not just the harm done to others, but also the damage inflicted upon oneself. Every act of cruelty, deceit, or betrayal erodes the integrity of the perpetrator's soul. They may not realize it at the time, blinded by their justifications or delusions of invincibility, but with every harmful action, they chip away at their own humanity. And when the veil is lifted, when the distractions are gone, they're left to face the hollowed-out version of themselves they've created. What makes this internal reckoning so powerful is its intimacy. It's not a public trial where one can perform remorse or shift blame. It's a private, deeply personal experience that no one else can witness or intervene in. There's no audience to impress, no jury to sway. It's just them and their actions laid bare in the stark light of self-awareness. This solitude makes the reckoning all the more brutal, as there's no escape route, no one else to share the burden. They are both the judge and the condemned, the accuser and the accused. Even those who appear outwardly unaffected are not immune. They may wear masks of confidence, arrogance, or indifference, convincing others and perhaps even themselves that they are untouchable. But the mind has a way of betraying such illusions. It remembers. It stores every misdeed, every betrayal, and every cruel act, waiting for the perfect moment to bring them to the surface. This moment often comes when they least expect it, when their defenses are down and they are most vulnerable. A fleeting memory, a chance encounter, or even a seemingly unrelated event can trigger a cascade of guilt and regret, shattering the carefully constructed facade. The haunting of one's conscience is not a punishment imposed by an external force, it's a natural consequence of being human. The very traits that enable empathy, connection, and moral reasoning also ensure that no one can escape the weight of their own actions. The mind is wired to seek coherence, to align its actions with its values and beliefs. When there's a disconnect, when someone acts in ways that betray their sense of right and wrong, it creates a dissonance that cannot be ignored. This dissonance gnaws at them, eroding their peace of mind and leaving them trapped in a cycle of regret and self-recrimination. For some, this internal reckoning can be transformative. It can serve as a wake-up call, prompting them to confront their actions, seek redemption, and strive to become better. But for others, it becomes a prison, a perpetual state of torment from which they cannot escape. The difference lies in how they choose to respond to their guilt. Those who acknowledge their wrongdoings and take responsibility for their actions have a chance to break free from the cycle. They can use their pain as a catalyst for growth, learning from their mistakes and striving to make amends. But those who deny, deflect, or suppress their guilt only deepen their suffering, trapping themselves in an endless loop of self-deception and regret. This internal reckoning is a universal experience, transcending culture, status, and circumstance. It's a reminder that no one is exempt from the consequences of their actions, no matter how powerful or untouchable they may seem. It's a force that levels the playing field, ensuring that everyone is held accountable not by external forces, but by their own conscience. And in this, there is a certain justice, a poetic inevitability that no one can escape. The haunting of one's actions is not just a punishment, it's a lesson. It's a reminder of the weight of our choices and the importance of living with integrity. It's a call to be mindful of the impact we have on others and to take responsibility for the harm we cause. And while the journey through this reckoning is often painful, it's also an opportunity for growth, transformation, and redemption. Actions are the threads that weave the fabric of our lives, connecting us to the people and world around us. Each decision, each word, each deed, no matter how small, creates ripples that spread far beyond the moment they occur. Yet many people fail to realize the power and permanence of their actions. They move through life as though the choices they make are fleeting, as if the harm they cause can be brushed aside or forgotten. But the truth is far more unforgiving. Actions are inescapable, and their consequences have a way of returning to haunt those who create them. This is not simply a matter of justice or karma, it's an intrinsic part of what it means to be human. When someone harms another, they may think the moment ends as soon as the damage is done. They may convince themselves that the pain they've caused is isolated to the victim, as if the emotional and psychological weight of their actions vanishes the instant they turn away. But this is a dangerous delusion. The things we do to others leave marks, not just on them, but on us as well. The mind is not a blank slate that can be wiped clean at will. It records everything, even the things we try to forget, embedding our choices deep within our subconscious. Over time, these choices shape who we are, how we see ourselves, and how we move through the world. The haunting of one's actions begins subtly. At first, it may feel like a vague discomfort, an unease that's difficult to pinpoint. A fleeting memory might surface, a look on someone's face, a tone of voice, a moment that felt wrong even as it was happening. These are the seeds of consequence planted in the fertile soil of the mind. Left unchecked, they grow, taking root and spreading their tendrils through the psyche. What begins as a faint whisper soon becomes an echo, then a roar, demanding attention. The more someone tries to ignore or suppress these thoughts, the more persistent they become. Because the truth, no matter how much one tries to deny it, refuses to be silenced. For those who cause harm, the reckoning doesn't arrive all at once. It's not a single moment of revelation or a sudden wave of guilt. It's a slow, insidious process that unfolds over time. Each choice made in cruelty or indifference adds another layer to the burden they carry. They might not feel it immediately. The weight is often subtle at first. But as the years pass and the choices accumulate, the burden becomes impossible to ignore. It presses down on them, shaping their thoughts, their relationships, and their sense of self. It's a constant reminder of the harm they've caused, lurking in the background of their mind, waiting for the quiet moments to make itself known. The inescapability of actions lies in their permanence. Words spoken in anger, lies told in deceit, and betrayals carried out in cold calculation cannot be undone. Apologies and reparations may help to heal the wounds inflicted, but they cannot erase the act itself. The memory of it remains, etched into the consciousness of both the perpetrator and the victim. And while the victim may find a way to move forward, the perpetrator is often left to wrestle with the knowledge of what they've done. This knowledge is not something that can be easily dismissed or forgotten. It becomes a part of them, a shadow that follows them wherever they go. People who harm others often try to justify their actions to convince themselves that they were in the right or that the ends justified the means. These justifications might provide temporary relief, a fragile shield against the weight of guilt. But deep down, the mind knows the truth. It knows when a line has been crossed, when a wrong has been committed. And no amount of rationalization can erase that knowledge. The mind is a relentless judge, and it does not accept excuses. It holds on to the truth, waiting for the moment when the perpetrator can no longer deny it. The haunting of one's actions is not limited to the mind. It seeps into every aspect of life. Relationships are often the first to feel the impact. The guilt and shame carried by someone who has caused harm can create barriers between them and the people they care about. They may become distant, defensive, or even hostile as they try to protect themselves from the vulnerability that comes with connection. Their actions create a ripple effect, not just in the lives of those they've harmed directly, but in their own life as well. The damage they've caused becomes a part of their story, influencing their decisions, their interactions, and their sense of self-worth. This internal reckoning is both a punishment and a lesson. It's a reminder that actions have consequences, not just for others, but for oneself. The harm inflicted on others doesn't simply vanish, it becomes a part of the perpetrator's identity, shaping how they see themselves and how they are seen by others. It's a form of justice that doesn't rely on external forces or societal structures. It's intrinsic to the human experience, a reflection of the interconnectedness of our actions and our being. For some, this reckoning can be transformative. It can serve as a catalyst for change, prompting them to confront their actions, take responsibility, and strive to do better. But for others, it becomes a prison, a cycle of guilt and denial that they cannot escape. The difference lies in how they choose to respond to the haunting. Those who face their actions head-on, who acknowledge their mistakes and seek to make amends, have a chance to break free from the cycle. They can use the weight of their guilt as a force for growth, learning from their mistakes and striving to become better. But those who deny, deflect, or suppress their guilt only deepen their suffering, trapping themselves in an endless loop of self-recrimination and regret. The haunting is inevitable because it's a reflection of what it means to be human. Our actions are not isolated events, they are a part of the ongoing narrative of our lives. They shape who we are, how we see ourselves, and how others see us. They create ripples that extend far beyond the moment they occur, touching the lives of others in ways we may never fully understand. And while we may try to outrun the consequences of our actions, we can never truly escape them. They are a part of us, a testament to the choices we've made and the impact we've had on the world around us. This is why the haunting of one's actions is so powerful. It's not a punishment imposed by some external force, it's a natural consequence of being human. It's a reminder that we are not separate from our actions, that the choices we make leave a lasting imprint on our minds and souls. It's a call to live with intention, to be mindful of the impact we have on others, and to take responsibility for the harm we cause. And while the journey through this reckoning is often painful, it's also an opportunity for growth, transformation, and redemption. For in facing the consequences of our actions, we have the chance to confront our true selves and, if we're willing, to become better for it. The path of reckoning with one's actions is a journey marked by reflection, pain, and ultimately revelation. At its core lies an undeniable truth: no one escapes the consequences of what they do. Actions, like seeds, grow over time. Some blossom into beauty, enriching lives and creating connections, while others fester, twisting into thorny reminders of the harm inflicted. It is the latter that haunts the dark fruits of choices made in cruelty or apathy, sprouting into a relentless presence that shadows every step, every thought, every quiet moment. People often believe they can separate themselves from their actions, as if their deeds are transient, unconnected to who they are. They try to compartmentalize, to box away the decisions they regret and the harm they've caused, pretending that ignoring the past will erase its impact. But time does not absolve or diminish the weight of their choices. It amplifies them, transforming fleeting moments into enduring memories that etch themselves into the mind. They may bury these memories deep beneath layers of justifications and distractions, but the mind is a treacherous archive. It never forgets, and it knows when the ledger of actions is unbalanced. This unbalance manifests in the quiet. It's there in the stillness of the night, when the noise of the world fades and there is no one left to impress, no distractions to cling to. It's in the reflective surfaces of mirrors, where the face looking back seems unrecognizable, distorted by the weight of choices made. It's in the random triggers of everyday life: a familiar word, a fleeting sound, a stranger's expression, that bring the ghosts of past actions rushing back with an unforgiving clarity. The haunting is not a single event, it's a lifetime of echoes reverberating through the corridors of the mind. For those who have harmed others, the haunting becomes their constant companion. It walks beside them, uninvited but ever present, whispering reminders of the pain they've caused and the lives they've altered. They may attempt to drown it out, chasing success, indulgence, or power, in the hopes that these fleeting distractions will silence the voice within. Yet no amount of external validation can erase the internal dissonance. The mind demands coherence, a harmony between actions and values, and when this balance is disrupted, it resists. It does not allow the perpetrator to move forward without reckoning with what lies behind. The haunting is not an act of malice by the mind, it is a plea for accountability. It is a force that demands acknowledgement, not as punishment, but as a step toward wholeness. To live in denial of one's actions is to live in fragments, constantly at war with oneself. The mind knows this, and it seeks to reconcile, to force the individual to face the truth so they can begin the arduous process of healing. This process is not easy. It requires an unflinching honesty, a willingness to confront the darkness within, and the courage to accept the consequences of what has been done. Some resist this reckoning, clinging to denial or blame, refusing to acknowledge the role they played in the harm caused. They weave narratives that absolve themselves, painting themselves as victims of circumstance or necessity. But these narratives are fragile. They may hold up under the scrutiny of others, but they crumble under the weight of self-awareness. The haunting is relentless because it is born from truth, and truth cannot be silenced by lies. It waits patiently, biding its time, knowing that eventually the walls of denial will crack and the light of reality will seep through. For others, the reckoning becomes an opportunity. They see the haunting not as an enemy, but as a guide, a force urging them to change, to grow, to become better. They listen to the whispers of their conscience, acknowledging the pain they've caused and the damage they've done. They take responsibility not out of obligation, but out of a desire to mend what has been broken. This path is not an easy one. It requires humility, vulnerability, and a willingness to face the discomfort of guilt and regret. But it is also a path of liberation. In owning their actions, they free themselves from the prison of denial and begin to rebuild their lives on a foundation of honesty and accountability. The reckoning with one's actions is an inescapable part of being human. It is not something that can be avoided, delayed, or denied forever. It is a natural consequence of the choices we make, a reflection of the moral fabric that binds us together. And while it may be painful, it is also necessary. It is through this process that we grow, that we learn to take responsibility for the impact we have on others, and that we come to understand the weight of our choices. In the end, the haunting is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is a reminder of our humanity, of our capacity for both harm and healing. It is a call to live with integrity, to be mindful of the impact of our actions, and to take responsibility for the lives we touch. It is a force that ensures we cannot simply walk away from the choices we make, that we must face the consequences and learn from them. And in doing so, it offers us the opportunity to become something greater, to transform the weight of our past into the foundation of a better future.